Well, I haven't been able to get right back to this bow, so it's actually been in the mold now for about 2 days. Really kind of looking forward to getting this thing out of the mold and seeing what we were left with. So since it's going to take a few hands, or 2 hands, to get this going, I'm going to go ahead and get this unwrapped, and then we'll see how well it conforms to the mold, and kind of get our initial impressions on how she came out. Okay, here we go with the straps taken off of our glue up here, and I had mentioned when we were in the construction portions of this, or getting ready to prepare it for gluing, that it would give back just a little bit, so you can kind of see where it does follow the mold almost completely, and maybe gave back, you know, 1/2 inch to 1/4 of an inch or 3/4 of an inch on the glue up on that mold that it returned because of natural materials. But I am to start with pretty, oh yeah, looks like he went together, or she went together pretty straight. I don't think we're gonna have a whole lot of concerns with this one, at least out of the gate. So here we go. We'll get the plastic off, get it cleaned up, get some initial bends, and see how we fared in terms of initial bend and draw weight. So hang in there with me. I'm going to get her cleaned up. So we are out of the plastic wrap here, just freshly unwrapped. Really wanted to get into this thing and see how things went. So quick observations on our glue up. And I think a lot of what I have found is going to come down to that crown that is on the tempered piece of the belly piece of bamboo, and how that kind of rounded, if you don't get that whole concave off of that glue surface, that you can run into some troubles. And so we're going to start by looking right here. Now this has been very common for me in these builds. I think I've had more bows do this than not do this, and this is certainly not you know, a game changer for the bow. So I've got a longitudinal split in my bamboo right through that fade. And as I described in, earlier in the series, that this right here is the most challenging part of this build, and here's an example as to why. And this was wrapped very heavily. If you recall from the pictures of the glue up assembly and glue up, that I had a lot of wraps across this. Now you will see, and I think, and when I grind this down, it will become more apparent. We have a really pretty tight glue line through here, so it looks to me like we got good glue line for that. But even on the other side here, I got another longitudinal crack that happened right across here. I'm a little more concerned about this one, simply because it's near the edge. And if we end up narrowing our limbs, I don't want to narrow it too close to where this crack is. Now to mitigate that, of course, we'll go ahead and fill that gap with epoxy, just to fortify that space that's there. Will have zero effect on the bow function itself. It is in a non-working portion of the limb, so that's really not going to have any major effect. It will, however, affect the aesthetics of the bow itself. So there's going to be a crack. One of those bows that I brought back from the shop had a crack almost identical to this. And I don't know if you guys were able to see it. I have since taken those bows back, so I won't be able to show you an example of that. One other concern that I came across, and you might notice too, and I don't know if I discussed this in any of the prior videos before glue up. I ground the nodes on the belly down to darn near nothing. So this is a basically, you know, flat piece of bamboo. And that was my intent when I glued it down, is just take these out entirely. And as we go through the finishing process, we'll do the same thing. We'll take, I mean, we'll just continue that practice. We'll take those nodes down to where they'll only be apparent through visual observation, but upon, you know, looking at the surface, they're going to be all but even with the remaining pieces of the bamboo there. So it should be kind of a homogeneous depth here. As for the remainder of the glue up, I want to show you one section here, which I also believe was born of the bamboo being a little concave. Now here's the trick with this particular, and you can see that it's not the glue line on that's got a pretty hefty gap to it. The limb is quite wide, and so the chances of grinding down below this are pretty good if it's because again, we got that not elliptical, but that crowned shape on that belly lamb on the glue side. So I must not have removed it very well right through here, you know, and as I'm looking at it, I'm thinking must be a common theme, because if I turn this bow over on the opposing limb, I got a very similar circumstance in almost the exact same spot. So just upon observation, and guys, I'm not concerned about those glue lines for what that's worth. I'm going to build this glue as if they're not, or glue. I'm going to build this bow as if those glue lines are paper thin. Right? That has no bearing on me putting this bow through its paces and going ahead and tillering it and completing it in total. What we will likely find is that those glue lines will probably disappear in the narrowing phase as we narrow these limbs to get to weight. I gave it a quick floor tiller. It's pretty stout, but I think I've got a pretty good chance of coming in at my 40-ish pound range that I'm hoping to get with this bow. So the components were thin enough, I believe, and as we start to narrow these limbs and eliminate a lot of that nastiness along these edges, it should come down nicely in weight. So there's a couple of observations just off the start of this. So guys, I will and he is straight. He glued up really straight. I'm really pretty happy, because generally speaking on these types of builds, I end up with a little bit of twist in one or the other limbs, but this one really stayed true. So I'm real happy about that I don't have to heat and mitigate a twist. I will grind off the edges and we'll take one more shot on this before we wrap up this segment of the build and move on to actually tillering it, just to give you a feel for what the build looks like when it's all cleaned up and we've basically established our blank. So hang in there. I will be right back. All right, here we are, all cleaned up on our edges now. We can see we got some pretty good glue lines on the fades here. Let's see if I can't focus in on that. So looks like our pre-bending of the belly lambs paid off in this instance. Did mention that when it initially came out that we had some cracks going on, so I still have the longitudinal crack, and you can see that that crack extends all the way up into the exposed portion here, and does not really go all the way through. So we should be in pretty good shape here with regard to this. It looks like this one actually did split from all the way through to the glue line surface. So we're really going to kind of have to watch this one. As far as alignment is concerned, take a look here. We are in pretty good standing for that. It looks to me like we're not going to have to deal with much twist unless we put it in there. So there's our glue up piece. I want to kind of show a couple things here. To start this build, we are maybe, we are set back at the grip maybe 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch tops. So we'll call it 3/8, a firm 3/8 of setback on these limbs. We're going to give a lot of that up, I can already tell you. If we put it back on the mold here, you will see out at the tips that, as described earlier, it has given back a little bit of distance. So I would call that a clean inch on both ends here, that it has given back. In terms of coming, when we get it out of the off of the bindings, when you take the rubber bands off, it came back. So not like a single glue line, one belly piece to one backing, giving back about half of its total distance of reflex that we gave it. This only gave back, you know, I would call that a real marginal amount, maybe an 1/8 or a 1/6. So not too much. I mean, it gives us a really good starting point. I have floor tillered it just enough to get an idea of where we are in terms of strength. I would put it at probably a stout 70 pounds. That's what it feels like to me. We'll work it down. Again, I'm shooting for 40 something, low 40s, high 30s on this one. Again, going to try and learn my thumb release with this particular bow, so we'll make it ambidextrous through the grip. Anyway, so there is the bow blank, you know. So here we are with the start of our next build, and with the next episode we'll put in the string nocks, and we'll start bringing it to the string, and then move on to tillering and see what we get out of this guy. Real excited to see how it shoots, because I feel like up to this point it's gone together pretty well. Got a couple areas that we know we're going to have to mitigate, but overall I am pleased with where we're at thus far. So be sure to like and subscribe to get the updates as we start moving forward with this build, and you can see or not miss out on each step as we get closer to the finish line.